Watch what you bet, Teddy. Trifecta tonight. One in the association, one in NCAA basketball, and one in the NFL. Let's get right to it here. Golden State returns home, Teddy. Are they getting a victory parade today for beating those Denver Nuggets on the road to claim first place? Nope, but they're going to take to the court and play the Pelicans. One interesting thing here, Teddy, is that from previously, DeMarcus Cousins had hoped to probably get back and get ready for this game, maybe for a little revenge factor with his old friends. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Warriors open up -7, total of 240.5. Moneyline plus 250, -300. 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tip-off here on ESPN. Pelicans 6-17 straight up on the road, 9-14 against the spread. Warriors quick turnaround in elevation, Teddy. They're going to be up to the challenge tonight versus those Pelicans.
Well, they weren't tested last night in Denver. Nobody played. I mean, Draymond Green was the only guy to play 30 minutes. I think he played 30 minutes and some, 20 seconds or something. So Golden State, for the second night of back-to-backs, should be relatively fresh in this ballgame. And they're going against a team that's not playing elite-level defense, to put it mildly. In New Orleans, a squad that has struggled all year long to notch wins on the highway. All that being said, let's not forget, okay, New Orleans, terrible road record. You look at the season. They only won 6 road games all year. And you look at their point spread mark. 9's covered, 9-14 against spread. They're lousy. Yeah, but what have they done lately? Their last, I think, 8 on the road have all been decided by single digits. They've been in every game. They've been very competitive on this road trip, a 4-point loss and a straight-up win against the Clippers. And you talked about Mirotic back in the lineup. Mirotic. I remember last year when the Bulls were just god-awful, the worst team in the NBA by far. Mirotic came back. They made me a ton of money, and they traded him. And they were awful again. And then all of a sudden, New Orleans goes on a run with Mirotic. I don't know what this stretch for. He's a good stretch for, yes. I don't think he's that big of an impact, but so help me God, the last 2 years, whenever he's been healthy, his team's been a point spread juggernaut. Whenever he's been hurt, his team has been an ATS money loser. That's certainly been the case for the Pelicans so far this year. Merritt is back in the lineup for New Orleans. Good game. I don't see a blowout in this one necessarily, but I'm not standing in front of the Warriors right now, especially after they weren't tested last night in Denver.
Big 12 battle, Teddy. Kansas State's going to head on the road to play those Oklahoma Sooners. That's going to take place 7 p.m. tonight. ESPN, too, if you want to catch it here. Early lines, Teddy. Oklahoma favored by -4.5, total of 129. We did see some movement overnight there because some of these outlets had it at 6, 6.5. So you do have a 2-point movement towards the Oklahoma Sooners. Over-unders, we said 129. Money line going to get about a +170, -195 split. Dean Wade comes back for Kansas. The big man, 6'10 forward. That should play an impact. Fresh off a nice win for Kansas State. Maybe getting healthy at the right time as they enter into Big 12 play. Ken Pom, style of pace here. We always like to talk about that. Kansas State 313th in pace. Oklahoma at 54th in the country. Something's going to give in this one. Good game, though, Teddy, in the Big 12. Seems like every game in the Big 12 is going to be highly competitive this year.
Yeah, really. And where'd you see that 4.5? I would have loved to have Oklahoma -4.5 in my pocket. The first number I saw.
That's what. Yeah, that when I was punching
5.5.
it up this morning. What do we got now? Give me the updates of what we got now.
5.5, 6. More 6s and 5.5s. Last night when I did my work, it was sitting at 5.5. So 4.5, good number if you're able to get down on the Sooners. That number, unfortunately, no longer available. That being said, okay, we talk about K-State and they're only have one road win on the season. Yeah, they have Wade back. Yeah, they've given Oklahoma a lot of trouble in recent seasons. And when you look at what they've done in their last couple of ball games, very different K-State team with Wade on the court. They're sticky on the defensive end of the floor. No question, hard to win by margin right now against Kansas State. When it comes to the Oklahoma side, look, this is the squad last year that was not just a bad point spread team, an absolute money burner. Trae Young got a big spotlight on him early in the season. The betting markets loved Oklahoma, and they went through the Big 12 campaign and in the postseason and got annihilated ATS. One of the, if not the worst point spread team in basketball over the last 3 months of the season last year. Well, the residual value on Oklahoma has been flipped the other way. This season. They've been point spread juggernauts from day one this season. That's why I said 4.5. Yeah, I'm interested in the Okies, Oklahoma side. At 6, lean that way. But this number is not a number for me to pull the trigger on.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I was doing it up there, it looks like Bet Online offshore opened up at 6.5 last night, went to 4.5 for about an hour this morning, but quickly moving back in that direction for the Oklahoma Sooners. Teddy, it's not Friday yet. It's not Sunday yet where they're going to play this game, but we always have time to talk about here at sportsbookreview.com. Folks, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to us on YouTube. Every time Teddy and I go live on that betting show, you'll get the notification to pop in and check it out. Rams Saints minus 3.5 plus 100s now. So a little bit of a line shift from yesterday when that 3.5 was a little bit more steady, maybe trending right now towards threes. We'll see where it ends up. 56.5 money line of plus 155 minus 180. 305 on Sunday, the early game. Just an interesting game, because if we take a look at the Los Angeles Rams of the last 3 games, the C.J. Anderson effect ran for 269 yards, 155 yards, and 273 over the past 3 games. Seemingly being able to play with the lead and lean on that running game is a big deal, Teddy. But can that hold up in the Dome if the Saints jump out to a 7-0, a 10-point lead in this one? Can they continue to run the football, or will they be forced to use Jared Goff? That whole roaring stadium comes into play down there in the Superdome, and maybe too much to overcome. Looking forward to a good one. Early in the week, Teddy, I'm leaning towards the Rams in this one.
Yeah, earlier, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I had an argument with a wise guy friend of mine talking about where this line's going to move. He's like, it's going to 4. It's going to 4. Everyone knows the Saints are better. And yet last night, what happens? Money comes in
Yep.
on L.A.
Rams
and drive some of them back down to 3 and 3.5 even money, 3s with juice available right now. We may see some Saints money between now and kickoff, but we haven't seen that big move. He's like, that line's going to close 4. I haven't seen any indication that it's going to close 4, but for what it's worth, a pretty sharp bettor that I know pretty well thinks it's going in that direction. All that being said, I haven't seen signs of it. I do think New Orleans is the better of these two teams, and that certainly was apparent in the first meeting. The Rams' defense didn't get the job done. We know what Peyton's done at home, Peyton and Breeze, as when they're playing in the Superdome, and I don't know that Jared Goff is ready. It's been a Rams team that's had to run the football very effectively down the stretch because Goff, the downfield passing game isn't what it was a month or two ago. Now, I worry about the Saints' weapons in this ball game. Kamara and Thomas, obviously two very dangerous pass catchers, but this isn't one of these teams for New Orleans where they got 6 different guys that are capable of making big plays down the field. There's more dink and dunk in both of these offenses than I think a lot of people recognize. I wouldn't be surprised this ends up being a lower scoring game despite the 45-35 shootout in the first meeting between these two squads.
Teddy, quick question on this one, because I know when they played earlier, obviously it was a 10-point win and cover for the New Orleans Saints down in the Dome. Some key ingredients in that game. Cooper Kupp no longer on the field for the Rams, but defensively, you get back Aqib Talib when, if you remember, Marcus Peters got assassinated out there on the field when he was matching up with Michael Thomas. You saw last week with the Eagles, and you bring up a good point, is there's not a ton of overall playmakers on that offense, especially outside at the wide receiver position. Michael Thomas going against no names. At least Aqib Talib is going to be back in this game. If you watch the Dallas Cowboys game, when Aqib Talib went down and had to get touched for concussion protocol, real soft defenses playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, and Dak was able to dink and dunk his way down the field. Talk about maybe some of the injuries. Because look, C.J. Anderson didn't play in this last game. Now you have both C.J. Anderson and Gurley healthy in this one. Aqib Talib back in the fold, Cooper Kupp out. Makes for an interesting, way to cap it, but I would have to say the most important ingredient there is getting Talib back and healthy to try to slow down Michael Thomas in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Michael Thomas is going to be stopped, but containing him would certainly be a good idea if the Rams want to go on to the Super Bowl 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks from now. But a lot of times people are going to look at that regular season meeting and say, oh, this is what happened. This is what the two teams are, No, there's spots involved. There's situations involved. There are injuries that have occurred since then or were occurred in that ballgame. When I'm looking back at a regular season meeting between two teams, I'll put a little emphasis on it. I want to know what happened, but I will absolutely not be making a bet on the rematch based on what happened, solely based on what happened in the first meeting, saying, oh, that happened once, it's clearly going to happen again. We saw a shootout in the first meeting. Neither defense had a chance in that contest. The Saints got off to a big lead. The Rams turned it over a couple times. L.A. rallied back, and then New Orleans scored the last 2 scores of the ballgame to end up winning by margin. That was then. this is now in the postseason, the pressure ratchets up just a little bit more. And of course, when it comes to seeing these offenses, well, both defenses have seen them once already this season.